Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and welcome back to the breaking news. If you do enjoy, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and support us on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Moving on into our breaking news for the day, satellite imagery has finally shown that there is explosive objects placed onto the top of reactor number 4. These two satellite pictures were taken days apart from each other, the first being taken before the Ukrainians made claims that explosives had been placed on top of the reactor building. The second one was taken just 16 hours ago. Here is the reactor building as it existed before, and here is the reactor building as it was seen 16 hours ago. Notice that on the reactor hall, we can see that white objects have begun to appear along the southern side of the building's perimeter. These appear to be the claimed explosives that the Ukrainians are stating have been mounted on top of the reactor's building. These also appear to be quite sizable as well. Taking a direct size comparison of these white objects on the roof versus vehicles on the ground, such as this vehicle right here, we can see that these are about the size of a semi's forward cab. As you can see right there, there's a semi-truck's forward cab, and there is one of these large white objects. They appear to have been planted along the edges of the building. We can also see a visibly larger one up here near the front, somewhat on its own, and also another one towards the middle of the roof of the reactor hall. But this one is in the air, as we've seen the small white object before the Ukrainians said that there were explosives planted on top of the building. We don't know if that was an explosive that had already been there, and they have enlarged and slightly moved the explosive device, or if that's just a part of the reactor hall's roof. We're not exactly sure at this moment. But the other four were not there prior, and these are what the Ukrainians are claiming to be explosive devices. At the exact same time, the International Atomic Energy Agency went and made an inspection of the power plant, and they found that there was absolutely no explosives or mines that were visible anywhere. However, an additional statement was then made by the IAEA after putting out this non-alarming statement saying that additional access is needed. And from what we were able to gather, and I've done some researching on this, the IAEA was not able to access the rooftops that were imaged here. They were only able to access the ground level around the perimeter of the power plant and looked around there and were not able to find anything off kilter. They were not able to enter the buildings, and they were not able to get to the rooftops either. And so the IAEA statement sounds nice, and it sounds like it's disapproving that there are any explosives on the ZNPP, but they hardly got to see anything, and they didn't get to go to where it is claimed these explosive devices are, which is on the roofs of reactor number 4 and reactor number 6. We did see some pictures of the explosive devices mounted onto reactor number 6, but the ones on reactor number 4 appear to be larger in number, far more pronounced, and also larger as far as explosive yield just based off of their size. And so these are the ones that are being taken quite seriously, and there is visible proof that there have been some kind of explosives mounted onto the reactor hull. We don't know what kind of damage these explosives would create. They are on the roof of the building, after all, and they do extend down the entire length of the hull, even away from the nuclear reactor itself. But the explosive damage could cause a decent amount of strain to the nuclear reactor, and these buildings are most likely housing the turbines that the nuclear reactor powers. And if those turbines are damaged, that could also start to cause some very significant issues for the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. We'll be trying to ascertain more information and see what kind of damage these could hypothetically cause. I'm assuming that these are about the size of a Fab 500 each, considering that they are incredibly large. We can see that there would be about 1,000 pounds or 1,000 kilograms of explosives in this area, another 400 to 500 here, maybe another 300 in the center of the roof, and if this is an explosive, maybe another 500 kilograms of explosives on this end of the building as well. But of course, we'll have to find out what kind of damage that will cause as we continue to try and gather more information and more research about the power plant. Meanwhile, it appears that this threat has been taken seriously even by the Chinese, with President Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of China, also known as China, made a statement to Putin today warning against the use of nuclear weapons or a nuclear attack in Ukraine. This appears to also be extending directly, according to FT.com, which made this article, into the use of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant as some kind of an improvised nuclear weapon. And so it appears that the Chinese are also starting to move in the direction of condemning the Russians if an attack like this was to happen. We'll be waiting to see how this develops, and we'll also be waiting to see if the Chinese make any more pointed or serious responses in the guised threat of using the ZNPP as a nuclear weapon against the Ukrainians. But it does appear that at this point, other countries, including the People's Republic of China, are beginning to take this incredibly seriously and are beginning to make mentions of condemnation against the Russians and the supposed plan. Meanwhile, the United States is not sitting idly by, and it is expected that the Pentagon, or the Ministry of Defense, well, the Department of Defense, sorry, will be announcing that it will be sending cluster munitions to Ukraine tomorrow. This came from the NPR. Cluster munitions are a kind of explosive that is, the best way to describe it, similar to a shotgun shell filled with buckshot or birdshot. But instead of that buckshot or birdshot being solid pellets, these little pellets are also miniature bombs as well. And so when the shotgun shell hits the ground, it explodes outwards, and all of these little bomblets go out there with it and then blow up all over everything. They are incredibly effective at clearing out infantry, but they have been getting a large amount of ire around the world, especially the developed world, as people are saying that they are a hazard to the population living there afterwards. Some of these bomblets end up not exploding, and they end up remaining in the soil for quite some while. And disturbance by people, whether by vehicles or just normal human activity, can lead to these to explode later on and end up killing innocent citizens long after the war has ended. Due to this, many countries around the world have actually outlawed the use of cluster bombs in their own countries. But the United States, the Russian Federation, and the state of Ukraine all have signed no such treaties, and so cluster munitions are on the table for any of those countries to use. The United States houses a decent stockpile of cluster munitions, and we have seen the Russian Federation using cluster munitions so far in this war. It is entirely possible that the United States could give these cluster munitions to Ukraine, and the Ukrainians begin to fight the Russians on a level playing field as far as the cluster munitions category goes. Meanwhile, while the seriousness of the ZNPP is beginning to escalate and the Ukrainian counteroffensive is still pushing forward and will hopefully be getting better munitions here in the near future, we have also heard that the Russians have continued the purge. Surovikin is still missing, and we believe that he is in the prison inside of Moscow. We will not try and pronounce the name because we butchered that the last time, but from what we understand, Surovikin has been arrested and is in a prison in Moscow. He has also missed his wife's birthday, which was today, giving a very clear idea that he certainly has been arrested or he has been disappeared by the Russian government, one or the other, because he has not been seen for weeks at this point, and it appears that there will be no such sighting of him in the near future. Surovikin was one of Wagner, or Prigozhin's, inside men in the Russian government during the Wagner coup, and the Russian government, while Prigozhin is still in Belarus and nobody has heard or seen of him since, we have seen that the Russian government is still continuing the investigation against Prigozhin, and it appears that they're beginning to search through his internet files and similar items and objects, trying to figure out more about what Prigozhin had been doing up until the coup. It appears that they have been able to find the selfies that he made on his phone, and it appears that the guy was trying to get into a little bit of tomfoolery. I don't really know how to really describe this much, but he was seen wearing multiple different military uniforms, beards, and wigs. Right here, he looks like Ramzan Kadyrov. It looks like he's about to turn into the Ham and Cheddar Man, but nonetheless, it's a very interesting development, and 2023 couldn't get any weirder, to say the least. Memes have, of course, already begun to circle around about the selfies, and we've seen here that there has been a General Aladdin meme made about one of the pictures of Prigozhin, and that picture is put down there. Of course, the investigation is still continuing on in a very serious note, and it appears that they're finding out more about Prigozhin that we did not understand. There's also been reported pictures from inside one of his personal residences or apartments inside of St. Petersburg showing a large collection of wigs and also beards as well. It appears that he may have been a little bit of of a disguise kind of person, wanting to wear multiple in different kinds of disguises. But a fairly interesting development nonetheless, and they're still learning more about him at the moment and how much money he had hiding inside of a car in the middle of the Wagner office in St. Petersburg. But nonetheless, those are some of the major developments of today's news. I thank you all so much once again for watching. If y'all did enjoy, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We try and put out these videos every single day, 7 days a week, and we also try and do live streams 6 days a week, except for Mondays. However, we have been running into some problems behind the scenes. I am currently getting sick at the moment and haven't been feeling that great over the past few days. And my co-host, Enforcer Matt, who usually runs my live streams with me, he has been completely put out and has had a fever of 104 for the past few days. So we probably will not be running normal streaming tonight or maybe even tomorrow. We'll be seeing. So we're going to be playing it by ear, and hopefully he'll be getting better, and hopefully I won't get worse. And so with that, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.